cost could be less when all is said and done. Certainly a large factor is the fact that this takes into account or takes into the dates a holiday weekend, and we have contractual obligations for that. But we don't have a history, again, with this organization. We don't have a history of this event. There's alcohol involved in more than just the beer tent that they have. And we can't rely upon our district cars to handle situations or a private security firm to handle situations that could arise. And that's the basis for our cost estimates.
No, hold on. You'll get your chance. Commissioner Spataro.
Thank you. Well, we've had this actually starting at the beginning of the year where we talked about the number of special event liquor licenses, the stress that's placing on our police department and so on. And certainly I think people holding events, I think Commissioner Wisniewski is right. They, for the most part, are doing good things. It's beneficial to the city. We have to acknowledge we have a certain limited carrying capacity to support these types of events, and we have to charge for things that a decade ago we were happy to subsidize because we had more cash flow. But we don't have a number of personnel that we did 10 years ago, and we certainly don't have the cash flow that we did 10 years ago. And going forward, I really think, regardless of what we do here, we need to seriously look at finding a mechanism to keep the amount of special event requests within our capacity to support them, or we're going to have to perhaps sit down with the Convention and Visitors Bureau and the county to talk about how is there a mechanism that can be used to use a county-wide support for what are in most cases regional events. You know, there may be a way to help cover costs that way. But even with a mechanism like that, that doesn't change the fact we only have X number of police officers available. And, you know, unless there are other departments who have officers who are available to work for part of the fee that we charge, it still is a limitation that we can't get around. So I think our fee structure is reasonable and fair under our current economic circumstances. It's absolutely necessary given our limited number of officers. I believe we only have 74 available for duty right now. I believe there's 2 still on active duty call-up and
yes.
3 on
long-term injury
because of injury. So virtually the whole department is going to be working the entire holiday weekend. And they all have families and lives, and we have to be aware of that too. Particularly, as Commissioner Carter pointed out, there are issues within our community that stressed out police officers are not a good thing. We need them to be able to focus and interact with people in a way that's not disrespectful or causing problems because they're stressed or dealing with family problems caused by the level of work we're requiring them to do. Thank you.
Commissioner.
I respect what this organization is trying to do. I am taken aback by the comment that you think we're out here to try to make money off your event. We do not try to increase fees to single events or any type of individual. We're here to try to help the organization, you know, do what it's set up to do. I know you probably didn't mean it that way, but it kind of came off that way, that, you know, when you said that we may be inflating our charges. We are not inflating our charges. We're just charging what we need to do to, number one, make sure we cover at least our costs. That's all we're trying to do, is cover our costs, which will allow you to have a successful festival.
And I apologize, that's not what I meant. What I meant, I want it to be clear, I have no disapproval with the charge that we are being charged as far as hourly rate for police officers. I totally understand that. I was told that at the very beginning. But I was also told at the very beginning, what I do have a problem with is the number of officers. That's what my issue is, not with the fees. I totally agree with the fees. I have no problems with how much the police officers are getting paid. And that was clearly explained to me. But when we sat in our first meeting with Tony and Kathy and them, and Reverend can attest to this, Tony told us, and I asked specifically, how many police officers would you assign to our festival? And he said, probably 2. Now I'm getting assigned 9 during the day and 11 at night. That's a huge jump. And I think anyone in their right mind would say, wait a minute, this is way over exaggerated. And all I'm asking is to be fair. So I did pull some of the other ones because I didn't want to come in here not knowing what other people had done. And having spoke with Mayor, I think the closest, I know you can't compare apples, both festivals together, but you can get somewhat of an idea. And he said you probably should compare yourself to Taste of Muskegon, not Bike Time or Summer Celebration or anything. So I pulled Taste of Muskegon, and as you can see, even though Taste of Muskegon is a 2-day event, they were only charged $840 for police officers for 2 days. So if you multiply that times 2, because I'm a 4-day event, then mine should be somewhere between $16,000 and $2,000 for our police officers, or somewhere, or a little bit more. I mean, I'm even looking at 07 and 08. We were charged in 08 $3,500. That's reasonable. $27,000 is not reasonable, and that's where I have a problem. Not the fee that the police officer is getting paid, but the number of police that are being assigned to us.
Mr. Mayor? I certainly respect where you're coming from with that. Again, as we've said repeatedly, you got to compare apples to apples, and an event out at the lake shore with limited access points and so on is a different thing than downtown. The other thing is things like Taste of Muskegon. Yeah, that's a 2-day event, but that was, I think, for 4 or 6 hours each day. They did not have evening hours. So again, that's a different type of situation. You have to look at each circumstance based on the time involved, but also the length of the event during the course of the day, the type of events that are part of that event, where it's located, and so on. And we have to rely on our chief of police to tell us how best to keep this community safe, particularly this summer when we've had a number of unfortunate incidents in this larger community. We just can't take any chances, and we have to look at each event on its own as far as what's needed to keep the community safe.
Right. If I may redirect, and I did do that, and one of the things you guys had said was that you wanted to keep the cost down for the city. So I specifically hired a security team that has worked Holland festivals and has worked Grand Rapids festivals, and they have a long history of working festivals, so they know how to handle crowds and security and stuff, and they're ex-military, ex-police, some are active police, so this group, when I looked at them to hire them, I hired them on purpose for that, so that we wouldn't have to put a big strain on the city, that we would have, and I paid quite a bit of money for them to be here, so that the city wouldn't have to put that many police officers on, that they would know that, we are very actively in their favor. We don't want any incidents happening, and we are assuring you that we're not going to, by hiring the specific security company that has this background. And I think that should be taken into consideration when deciding how many police officers to assign to this event.
Commissioner Wisniewski.
4-day event on a holiday weekend with a beer tent, and 6 months ago we didn't have the criminal activity that we've got in the last 6 weeks. I think there's a lot of demand out there more than just your event, and actually having the event probably creates a little bit more of an opportunity. Plus the fact that it's a holiday weekend, we have to pay triple pay to a fairly exhausted police department. I can start to see where the numbers start to add up a little bit. I don't think it's entirely reflective on your organization or event. I think it's a matter of circumstances and the times that we live in, and we have to be realistic about it. The cities, we have tried to, as a commission, work with the city administration to reinforce the idea that we only want to pass along very real and actual costs and not a dollar more. But we don't want to be absorbing a lot of cost because we just don't have the budget to do it. So we have to rely on our professional staff to evaluate the situation and make the determinations. And if there was some communication on when fees would be due or something like that, I think we probably have a history in the past. I can't speak for our history because I haven't been with the commission more than a few years. But the circumstances have just evolved to the point where we're doing this, and we're trying to apply all of these rules consistently. But there is a very, very real cost to the city for all of the services that we're providing, and anything over and above what we're trying to do to get by day to day, we need to ask organizations and events to front and help us with those specific costs, but no more.
Is there records of the policy that they have to pay up front if they're new? I mean, is there somewhere in writing where they know that they have to pay this up front before the event is on new events? Is it written somewhere where she may have missed it, or did we not make them aware of it? Or I guess I want to kind of deal with that aspect of it.
Sure. We have been evolving over the last year or so because of our budget situation and because of problems we've had with some events in the past. Probably in the at least last year, if not prior to that, we've started, and it's not a policy, it's just good business, for any event that we've had that still owes us money or that we had a concern that they didn't follow through on something they were supposed to follow through on. We have required them to make any payments prior to the event or to put money up front. If we knew we let them slide the first year, but if we knew there was a problem with something, we wanted the funds up front before they did the event again, in case they did it again, with the idea that we would give that money back to them if whatever that particular problem that event had. So we're slowly starting to do that because of the situation.